Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. Michael Darcy, your host here as always. And today I'm recording this video live from the Sports Radio 810 WHB studios. And I wanted to talk about if the Chiefs should contact a familiar face in defensive end Carlos Dunlap. The Kansas City Chiefs have a problem. And it is a problem that I did not think that they were going to have at this point in time. It is Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. And the Chiefs are very weak at defensive end. And I thought that they were okay. They went into the offseason with the mindset of drafting one in the draft and adding somebody in free agency. They got a first-round pick with Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the defensive end out of K-State. And they spent a little contract on defensive end, former 49ers defensive end, Charles Omenihu. But unfortunately, and if you've been paying attention to the news recently, Charles Omenihu got suspended for the first 6 games of the season by the NFL for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy regarding some domestic violence issues. So, Charles Omenihu will not be on this team for the first 6 games. So he's out a big chunk of the season, and that leaves the Chiefs' defensive end room kind of thin. They don't really have a lot of guys, and if you throw in the fact that Chris Jones is a question mark going into this season, I don't feel very good about this defensive line at this point in time. Granted, a lot of stuff could change, regarding Chris Jones' status, but right now, the Chiefs have Mike Dana, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, a rookie draft pick that hasn't even played a down in the NFL, George Karlaftis, and that's pretty much it. Joshua Kaindoh maybe, but the Chiefs are very, very thin in that position right now, and Charles Omenihu getting suspended for the first 6 games really kind of throws a wrench in the Chiefs' plans. And I think that the Chiefs need to go out and try to find somebody to replace Omenihu for at least the first 6 games. And in my opinion, there is nobody better for that job than the guy that played with the team last year in Carlos Dunlap. Carlos Dunlap came in last year at 33 years old. Right now he is 34 years old. But last season, he played in all 17 games for the Kansas City Chiefs, starting in 2 of them. He had 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 12 QB hits, which I was looking at his other stats from back when he was in Cincinnati and with the Seahawks. He didn't really have a drop-off in production outside of sacks last year with the Chiefs. He was a pretty good defensive end, and he was kind of a role player because he wasn't really starting because of Frank Clark, but I still think that Carlos Dunlap played some pretty significant snaps and was able to kind of give you something coming off the bench, and he was really big in the playoff run. So, in my opinion, this is a no-brainer. The Chiefs should definitely try to go out and at least bring this guy back, because right now you really don't have anybody outside of George Karlaftis, because I think that Felix is a good piece, but, as you've been watching training camp, Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo have kind of been talking about how he's kind of been overwhelmed with the amount of information and the playbook that he has to learn, so he's not quite ready yet. And that's okay because Steve Spagnuolo runs a very complicated defensive scheme, and if you remember last year, it took George Karlaftis 7-8 weeks to really catch his stride. And coming, down the home stretch of the season, George Karlaftis was getting a sack damn near every week, and he was really good in the playoffs, and you would have probably not won the Super Bowl without him, but it took him some time to kind of get used to playing in this defensive scheme. So I think for continuity purposes, bringing back a guy in Carlos Dunlap who knows this scheme, has played in it, and did fairly well in the scheme, I think that while Charles Omenihu is out, you got to bring him back. For me, this is such an easy decision because you need somebody that can log you snaps. And Carlos Dunlap, for being 34 years old, he's very, I don't want to jinx it, but he's very healthy and he's been able to play a lot of games. So if you just need somebody to eat snaps, Carlos Dunlap is the perfect candidate for this job. I've seen some people throw out the name of Justin Houston. That's never going to happen. Justin Houston's never going to come back here. But Carlos Dunlap makes sense. And in fact, right after Charles Omenihu got suspended, I was kind of banging the table. I said, Brett Veach better be on the phone with Carlos Dunlap right now. And, we're kind of starting to get towards the end of training camp. The first preseason game is this Sunday. So I think it would make a lot of sense to kind of get him in this system now, let him get some conditioning because he's been sitting on his, his butt all offseason long. So let him get some conditioning, let him get back up to football speed and in football shape. And I think that Carlos Dunlap can do a really good job of filling in while you're out your other starting defensive end in Charles Omenihu. So let me know down in the comments below what you guys think of the possibility of the Chiefs bringing back Carlos Dunlap. I love the idea. I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's such an easy decision. It probably wouldn't be very much, like a 1-year, $5-6 million contract. He'd probably take it. I guess you could ask the question if he still wants to play. He's 34 years old. He just won a Super Bowl championship. He might not want to play, but I think that better often than not, he'd probably play if the Chiefs came to him and said, hey, we kind of need you to come in, use your veteran experience and leadership for the first 6 games of the season, and then we'll kind of rotate you back in that bench role. But right now we need you. And I think that he'd probably take that, and I think that for the Chiefs, that would fit their purpose and fit their need until your other starting defensive end comes back. So, in my opinion, I think this is such an easy decision. And if I'm Brett Veach, I'm on the phone right now trying to get Carlos Dunlap back in Kansas City. So if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for future Chiefs content. Go check me out on the social media platforms, Twitter/X at KC Sports Report, Instagram KC_Sports Report, and the personal is at the Michael Darcy on both Twitter and Instagram. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video, and go Chiefs.